TC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number. Analysis. It's remarkable that positive fantasies help us relax to such an extent that it shows up in physiological tests. If you want to unwind, you can take some deep breaths, get a massage, or go for a walk, but you can also try simply closing your eyes and fantasizing about some future outcome that you might enjoy. But what about when your objective is to make your wish a reality? The last thing you want to be is relaxed. You want to be energized enough to get off the couch and lose those pounds or find that job or study for that test, and you want to be motivated enough to stay engaged even when the inevitable obstacles or challenges arise. The principle of dream it, wish it, do it does not hold true, and now we know why. In dreaming it, you undercut the energy you need to do it. You put yourself in a temporary state of complete happiness, calmness, and inactivity. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number. 01. Perhaps, the advent of artificial intelligence, AI, in the workplace may bode well for emotional intelligence, EI. AI, EI. As AI gains momentum and replaces people in jobs at every level, predictions are, there will be a premium placed on people who have high ability in EI. AI, EI. The emotional messages people send and respond to while interacting are, at this point, far beyond the ability of AI programs to mimic. AI. As we get further into the age of the smart machine, it is likely that sensing and managing emotions will remain one type of intelligence that puzzles AI. AI. This means people and jobs involving AI are safe from being taken over by machines. EI. In a survey, almost 3 out of 4 executives see AI as a must-have skill for the workplace in the future, as the automatizing of routine tasks bumps up against the impossibility of creating effective AI for activities that require emotional skill. AI, EI. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number. 02. Brands that fail to grow and develop lose their relevance. Think about the person you knew who was once on the fast track at your company, who is either no longer with the firm or, worse yet, appears to have hit a plateau in his or her career. Assuming he or she did not make an ambitious move, more often than not, this individual is a victim of having failed to stay relevant and embrace the advances in his or her industry. Think about the impact personal computing technology had on the first wave of executive leadership exposed to the technology. Those who embraced the technology were able to integrate it into their work styles and excel. Those who were resistant many times found few opportunities to advance their careers and in many cases were ultimately let go through early retirement for failure to stay relevant and update their skills. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number. 03. In one study, when researchers suggested that a date was associated with a new beginning, such as the first day of spring, students viewed it as a more attractive time to kickstart goal pursuit than when researchers presented it as an unremarkable day, such as the third Thursday in March. 3. Whether it was starting a new gym habit or spending less time on social media, when the date that researchers suggested was associated with a new beginning, more students wanted to begin changes right then. And more recent research by a different team found that similar benefits were achieved by showing goal seekers modified weekly calendars. When calendars depicted the current day, either Monday or Sunday, as the first day of the week, people reported feeling more motivated to make immediate progress on their goals. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number. 04. Most parents think that if our child would just behave, we could stay calm as parents. The truth is that managing our own emotions and actions is what allows us to feel peaceful as parents. Ultimately, we can't control our children or the obstacles they will face, but we can always control our own actions. Parenting isn't about what our child does, but about how we respond. In fact, most of what we call parenting doesn't take place between a parent and child but within the parent. When a storm brews, a parent's response will either calm it or trigger a full-scale tsunami. Staying calm enough to respond constructively to all that childish behavior and the stormy emotions behind it requires that we grow, too. If we can use those times when our buttons get pushed to reflect, not just react, we can notice when we lose equilibrium and steer ourselves back on track. This inner growth is the hardest work there is, but it's what enables you to become a more peaceful parent, one day at a time. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number 05. Advice from a friend or family member is the most well-meaning of all, but it's not the best way to match yourself with a new habit. While hot yoga may have changed your friend's life, does that mean it's the right practice for you? We all have friends who swear their new habit of getting up at 4:30 a.m. changed their lives and that we have to do it. 430. I don't doubt that getting up super early changes people's lives, sometimes in good ways and sometimes not. But be cautious, you don't know if this habit will actually make your life better, especially if it means you get less sleep. So yes, you can try what worked for your friend, but don't beat yourself up if your friend's answer doesn't change you in the same way. All of these approaches involve guessing and chance. And that's not a good way to strive for change in your life. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number 06. Who is this person? This is the question all stories ask. It emerges first at the ignition point. When the initial change strikes, the protagonist overreacts or behaves in an otherwise unexpected way. We sit up, suddenly attentive. Who is this person who behaves like this? The question then re-emerges every time the protagonist is challenged by the plot and compelled to make a choice. Everywhere in the narrative that the question is present, the reader or viewer will likely be engaged. Where the question is absent, and the events of drama move out of its narrative beam, they are at risk of becoming detached, perhaps even bored. If there's a single secret to storytelling, then I believe it's this. Who is this person? Or, from the perspective of the character, who am I? It's the definition of drama. It is its electricity, its heartbeat, its fire. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number 07. Too many officials in troubled cities wrongly imagine that they can lead their city back to its former glories with some massive construction project, a new stadium or light rail system, a convention center, or a housing project. With very few exceptions, no public policy can slow the tidal forces of urban change. We mustn't ignore the needs of the poor people who live in the Rust Belt, but public policy should help poor people, not poor places. Rust Belt. Shiny new real estate may dress up a declining city, but it doesn't solve its underlying problems. The hallmark of declining cities is that they have too much housing and infrastructure relative to the strength of their economies. With all that supply of structure and so little demand, it makes no sense to use public money to build more supply. The folly of building-centric urban renewal reminds us that cities aren't structures, cities are people. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4 Number 08. Fears of damaging ecosystems are based on the sound conservationist principle that we should aim to minimize the disruption we cause, but there is a risk that this principle may be confused with the old idea of a balance of nature. This supposes a perfect order of nature that will seek to maintain itself and that we should not change. It is a romantic, not to say idyllic, notion, but deeply misleading because it supposes a static condition. Ecosystems are dynamic, and although some may endure, apparently unchanged, for periods that are long in comparison with the human lifespan, they must and do change eventually. Species come and go, climates change, plant and animal communities adapt to altered circumstances, and when examined in fine detail, such adaptation and consequent change can be seen to be taking place constantly. The balance of nature is a myth. Our planet is dynamic, and so are the arrangements by which its inhabitants live together. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4, Number 09. The vast majority of companies, schools, and organizations measure and reward high performance in terms of individual metrics such as sales numbers, resume accolades, and test scores. The problem with this approach is that it is based on a belief we thought science had fully confirmed, that we live in a world of survival of the fittest. It teaches us that those with the best grades, or the most impressive resume, or the highest point score, will be the only ones to succeed. The formula is simple: be better and smarter and more creative than everyone else, and you will be successful. But this formula is inaccurate. Thanks to new research, we now know that achieving our highest potential is not about survival of the fittest but survival of the best fit. In other words, success is not just about how creative or smart or driven you are, but how well you are able to connect with, contribute to, and benefit from the ecosystem of people around you. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4, Number 10. The psychology professor Dr. Kelly Lambert's research explains that keeping what she calls the effort-driven rewards circuit well engaged helps you deal with challenges in the environment around you or in your emotional life more effectively and efficiently. Kelly Lambert. Doing hands-on activities that produce results you can see and touch, such as knitting a scarf, cooking from scratch, or tending a garden, fuels the reward circuit so that it functions optimally. She argues that the documented increase in depression among Americans may be directly correlated with the decline of purposeful physical activity. When we work with our hands, it increases the release of the neurochemicals dopamine and serotonin, both responsible for generating positive emotions. She also explains that working with our hands gives us a greater sense of control over our environment and more connection to the world around us. All of which contributes to a reduction in stress and anxiety and builds resilience against the onset of depression. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4, Number 11. Personal blind spots are areas that are visible to others but not to you. The developmental challenge of blind spots is that you don't know what you don't know. Like that area in the side mirror of your car where you can't see that truck in the lane next to you, personal blind spots can easily be overlooked because you are completely unaware of their presence. They can be equally dangerous as well. That truck you don't see? It's really there. So are your blind spots. Just because you don't see them, doesn't mean they can't run you over. This is where you need to enlist the help of others. You have to develop a crew of special people, people who are willing to hold up that mirror, who not only know you well enough to see that truck, but who also care enough about you to let you know that it's there. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 242, Chapter 4, Number 12. Many of the leaders I know in the media industry are intelligent, capable, and honest. But they are leaders of companies that appear to have only one purpose, the single-minded pursuit of short-term profit and shareholder value. I believe, however, that the media industry, by its very nature and role in our society and global culture, must act differently than other industries, especially because they have the free use of our public airwaves and our digital spectrum, and have almost unlimited access to our children's hearts and minds. These are priceless assets, and the right to use them should necessarily carry serious and long-lasting responsibilities to promote the public good. MTC. Good job.